So what you just said just got me thinking of a few other things. So the first thing I want to flag is you mentioned the farm tours, which could be potentially an amazing. There's nothing better than seeing it firsthand, right? That can be an amazing tool for garnering support and also getting that, again, that two-way dialogue for the public, transparency to see what you're doing. But can you tell us a little bit more about what tools like marine spatial planning, and Luke, we'll start with you on this. How can marine spatial planning potentially help garner more trust among the public for development projects like marine aquaculture? How can they help with poor public perceptions about these activities?
Sure, yeah. So marine spatial planning or ocean planning, as it's sometimes called, it's really about an engaged and sort of inclusive planning process. So it's not necessarily about drawing lines and allocating spaces for different uses. That may at some point be an outcome of planning, but it's really about the process. So a well-designed and well carried out ocean planning and marine spatial planning process should seek out, provide opportunities for kind of authentic engagement with a variety of stakeholders from the community level to, you know, the state or national level or whatever it may be. And it should also provide a diversity of fora to engage. So not just writing comments, not just attending information sessions, but really the goal is for some sort of kind of authentic back and forth and dialogue about what matters to people on the water, and really trying to capture all those different things, whether it's economic concerns, ecological concerns, or cultural concerns. Trying to understand what the water means to people in different places and in different spaces. So, marine spatial planning can kind of provide perhaps a structured envelope for a lot of the sort of engagement and multi-use conflicts or coordination that come up when you're bringing a potentially new use like aquaculture onto the water, and particularly a new use that can take up space in a particular area, whether you can go over that space like Paul described, or whether there's a perception among a lot of people in the public that it's really excluding other uses from those spaces. But if you have the planning process moving forward, it provides opportunities to explain, help people understand, how marine aquaculture works and how it can be coordinated or not with other uses. And it provides just some of those opportunities to build that trust and honesty in terms of letting people understand, the true pros and cons of what these development processes are, and maybe cut through, kind of strong perceptions that people hold, whether positive or negative. So in that way, it can provide more structure to that sort of engagement and participation process.
So once again, that's about that two-way dialogue and that two-way engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And Suzi, do you have anything to add to how marine spatial planning might be a tool to help address poor public perceptions or to help engage the communities more effectively?
If it is done in an effective way and the engagement is proper, then it really is a great tool. One of the things that could be a drawback is sometimes engagement is just seen as a one-way dialogue. So not even a dialogue, one-way communication from top down, and that can cause issues. But if you've got a process in place where it's two-way and you actually listen and you have concrete outcomes from that dialogue, then absolutely it's a great thing.
I also want to touch on another thing that Paul mentioned, and you guys also mentioned a little bit, was the various stakeholders. Fishermen are one of the stakeholders that tend to be concerned about some of these projects, and some research has indicated that it tends to be because of that potential conflict with their jobs and livelihoods. As Paul mentioned, potentially aquaculture could help with that, right, and support and provide a supplementary opportunity for them in the off-season perhaps. But there has been evidence also that fishermen, for using as an example, and there's other stakeholders, that maybe they use other concerns to garner public support to build the momentum for opposition when really it's just hiding another concern. So for example, a lot of fishermen are partnering with environmental organizations to oppose projects based on environmental concerns. But a study in UC Santa Barbara several years ago, they held a workshop, and what they found was the underlying concern was really about that potential to compete with their livelihoods. So, Luke, can you comment on that a little bit more? Are we seeing examples where groups are kind of leveraging one issue that they know might tug a little bit more at the hearts and minds of more people when they're really concerned about another issue?
I think that's certainly a possibility. I don't, personally have evidence of that, but I don't think it's unreasonable, and it's often talked about. And, I will say just, generally when it comes to issues of environmental concerns, economic development, and sort of the nexus of those two things, that sort of coalition building isn't unusual. It's been seen in other cases related, for instance, to ocean conservation, where you kind of have these unusual combinations of groups that may not otherwise seem to have anything in common, but the end goal is in common. So whether it's something like inhibiting aquaculture development or protecting a particular type of species, things that might provide benefits for one group, whether it's fishermen having more space or opportunity to fish, and on the other hand, you have environmental groups that maybe are pleased that the potential environmental risks of aquaculture don't exist, so they will build coalitions around those things, even though where in other fora they might actually be in opposition to each other. So I think that's a possibility for sure. Again, I think it can be somewhat case dependent, and I think that it might be changing. I think Suzi and Paul have both alluded to the fact that there's definitely seems to have been a shift in perceptions and goals of a lot of different groups regarding marine aquaculture, including some that historically and traditionally have been very anti-aquaculture and now are maybe seeing different types of possible opportunities for the sector.